Right, so let's get Conte in, because it's quite a special occasion for good old Contes, and I think you guys should know about it, so let's get him in. How are you doing today, Conte? How's life, brother?
It's good. It's
Good,
real
man.
good. I had a great day, you can imagine.
Say again, sorry?
I had a great day, as you can imagine.
Good stuff, man. So, if you guys didn't know, there was an article which was posted on the War Thunder website today. And this, I believe, is at least recently the second article of its kind. There was a first an SU-7B pilot when the update came out, and now we have another article, or I suppose an interview, which is once again looking at another person, and this time, well, it's Conte Baraka, who's with us right now. So yeah, it's kind of awesome. If I'm honest with you.
Well, first off, when they were asking for other people, like I emailed them the instant I got done with that article. It's you know me. I'm comfortable speaking in public. I have a lot of opinions about the game. I consider myself fairly well educated on this kind of subjects that all pertain to the game and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, I'd love to do that. I would love an opportunity to explain kind of what Gaijin gets right about the tanks and what they don't, purely from gameplay point of view. Like you didn't see me whining about turret rings or the armor around the breach. I'm like, those are gameplay things, guys. Like they do that for lots of good reasons. That they aim for how did Matrix put it? They aim for authenticity, not accuracy, right?
Yes.
And but I really had a big beef with the load times. Not that I think they need to go down to like 4 seconds, but they were just a little bit too long. Like, there's nobody who's taken 7.8 seconds to load an Abrams main gun. That's just not happening, right? So, the whole experience actually was they were great to work with, Tech. Right? Like it was the guy's first name is Constantine that I worked with. He's one of their public relations marketing guys, right? And he got back to me. He asked me great questions. If you look at the questions too, notice how it doesn't ask about protection anywhere. And when he asks about bullets, he goes, "Hey, which ones did you use? How were they?" Right? Like giving it in a manner where he's not like, "Hey, do you think an M829 could actually pen the frontal plate of a T80?" Because of course I can't answer that question, right? And I can't talk about the armor, and they didn't even bother that. They like knew what the classified stuff was, and they stayed away from it. So, which you expect actually from professionals, right? And that's the way I would describe it. The whole thing was very professionally done. They cleaned up some of my spelling mistakes for me. They had me go over the interview several times after they were done with it to make sure I was okay with what they were putting in. And then the best thing is they gave me the test drive on the, like, hey, I don't actually have the M1A1. I played a ton of top tier. I played against it a bunch, but I don't play the American tree. They're like, oh yeah, we'll take care of that. And they did. They gave me a fully spaded M1A1 to drive around, and so I could give my impressions of the tank. And if you think about it, it's a good deal for both of us, right? That was just a really nice thing that they did, and I don't know. I love the whole process. It was good questions, I think, too. Right? I think they asked some good questions. Hey, this is a contentious topic, and they didn't shy away from the answer. And they gave, and again, professionally, they gave the devs a chance to go, well, hey, we're trying to account for it being on the move, and we're trying to keep the game balanced. And that's the important part, everybody. The load times on the Abrams tanks and probably the Leopards and such are all artificially nerfed to keep the game balanced, because this is a game and it's supposed to be fun. And it wouldn't be fun if you were in a Leclerc getting outloaded by everything, or a Type 90, or more importantly, a T80 or T64, always getting outloaded by things.
All right? You'd end up with is just everybody playing the same vehicle, just especially at top 2. Yeah.
Right. So, it and like I've said about the armor and the bullets, don't get wrapped up in it, because what you guys think you know, you don't really know, and that's okay. That means the governments are doing their actual job of spending your taxpayer dollars wisely and protecting their secrets. All right. But no, it was fun. It was great to do. I was hoping there would be a big response. There was. It was overwhelmingly positive, as it should be. You know, it was just nice. It was really nice. Oh, interestingly, I ran out of comments. You can, as a non-mod, you're only allowed so many comments on news articles per day.
Really? Oh.
To keep you from spamming, I would imagine.
Yeah,
right? To keep you from spamming.
Yeah.
And I ran out and I sent like an emergency email to Constantine, and I messaged Weish on the forums like, hey, can you give me more comment? So I will get to everybody's questions and comments on there as I get more opportunity to do so. So if you put anything in the article, I'll answer it for sure.
Oh, that's good. So at least from like my point of view, I've never like had an issue like with anybody at like Gaijin trying to get stuff done. Like when it comes to like marketing or when it comes to like, you know, through the program or whatever. So it's kind of nice to see that other people are having, you know, similar experiences. Like it isn't the hellhole that some people try and you know, paint it as.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Go on. Sorry. No, I was just that's I can't agree more. Like again, I only dealt with Constantine one-on-one, but all of it. Like, and we said, oh yeah, we'll get you the tank. It showed like an hour late. I just logged in and there it was, mated, ready to go. It's like, oh, thanks guys.
Yeah, the other thing as well is what I hope this does, and I'm at least going to try my best to, you know, give it a go, is try and find some other people who want to do similar things. The fact is, like, we have in this community so many people who are either ex-military or, you know, they have so much knowledge, whether they're like historians or something like that. It would be kind of nice to see more of those like kind of community-led things. Like, I mean, you were the one who reached out, right? Like, you were the one who kind of were like, hey, we should talk about this, and guess what? They were reciprocal to it. So I hope a lot of people, you know, do that too.
I was actually kind of surprised they were so gung-ho about it, because the M1 tank doesn't... I know it's exciting and it's an important asset to the game, but it doesn't have the same kind of feel. Like, what kind of questions are you going to ask me? Like, because the jets, or the aircraft, I find there's so much like modeling that goes into their flight envelope that they try to be accurate on, not authentic on, right? That it's a very different kind of conversation. It was fascinating to read about the SUC. No, I feel like it turned right. You know what I mean? Like that was a very different kind of discussion. And I like how they turned it into almost more of a historical article, right? Hey, so how did you actually use this in real life, right? And then they, and to their credit, when I complained about the sounds, they put it all in there exactly how I wrote it. I tried to be professional and polite about it, like, hey, I get what you're trying to do, but it doesn't actually sound like that, right? And hey, I get what you're trying to do with the loading, but here are my big problems with it, right? And for everybody listening, when I'm talking about that 5 seconds under arduous conditions, that includes moving, but that's moving like on a road or in a field. That's not moving across rough terrain. You ain't loading around in so if your tank starts bouncing around, the breech bounces around inside the tank. Just try and think about that for a minute. It bounces around at 1,500 PSI.
God damn.
You don't want to get anywhere near that thing when it's bouncing around, right? In fact, in a training accident, we had a guy get crushed between the breech and the top of the turret. He lost like an eye and all of his teeth. It was fucking awful. At least he lived. Right? That was brutal, man. We call it the turret monster. You never know when it's going to bite you. And not just that, but everything in the turret can hurt you. But yeah, and I hope the description on the switching of ammo from the semi-ready to the ready gets through a lot of people's heads. Like, people take some of the stuff that happens in this game for granted. Like, you ain't moving rounds from the semi-ready to the ready like it happens in this game.
Yeah.
That ain't happening. Yeah. So,
do you feel like, is there any of the points in the article that you want to expand upon, or do you feel like there are certain questions that maybe you would have preferred to be asked that, you know, obviously you weren't?
Well, I would, like, the thing is, you have to be kind of careful around the sites too. So, like, you're even like we had stock footage people come out and take a bunch of stock footage of the Abrams, and they were even allowed to shoot footage through our site. What they weren't allowed to do was we weren't allowed to show the symbology, so you couldn't see what range we were looking at. right? Symbology is all the little numbers. When it doesn't look anything like it does in the game. When you hit the laser rangefinder, hey, go look at Gunner GHPC footage. They'll show you how it looks in all of its boring glory. But anyways, there's like little digits at the bottom that give you your laser range, right? So you're not allowed to show that or the sight reticle because there's certain mils apart. Right, and so you can calculate based on the size of the square and what you're looking at, how far away it is. Right, so all of that symbology has to be turned off when you're doing footage. But what I will say is like the thermal sights capture the feel of real thermal sights really well.
Yeah,
especially their Gen 1 stuff. When I look through their Gen 1 stuff, it's like, gosh, it's just as shitty as I remember it. This is amazing, right? And that's the kind of stuff that we didn't talk about. But I mean, I feel like they asked really good questions. Like, I mean, we could have done quibbling things. Hey, what do you think of the fire suppression system? I mean, okay. You know, but a lot of the stuff that is quote unquote wrong is for gameplay reasons. You know, those are the kinds of things that are sorry, cool. Am I talking too fast? Cool skills.
No, just keep talking.
Anyways, I really feel like they asked kind of the right questions because those are the fixable beefs. Loading times is a fixable beef.
Yeah.
Right? The sounds are fixable beefs. The turret ring is not fixable. It's a combination of it's mostly a result, guys, of the bullets being 1 pixel in diameter and the armor not really being fully modeled. Right? Like you're not hitting the race ring on an Abrams. That's a 1 in a million shot in real life.
Yes.
Right? Likewise with the breach area. That's a 1 in 100 shot to hit the actual breach area of the tank. All right? So, but you're not going to fix that because you need it. You need to be able to hit the turret ring. You really need to be able to hit the breaches. Otherwise, it's just 2 tanks looking at each other that can't hurt each other. And skill doesn't matter.
Pinging off each other constantly.
Skill doesn't matter, right?
Yeah.
The better player doesn't win, right? So I felt like all the questions, but the sounds they're dorked. I told them they were dorked. I told them how they were dorked, and honestly, I didn't NDA anything, but they gave me strong indications that they're positively taking my feedback on the sounds of the Abrams and that they're working on it.
Did you see the changelog from today, where it said they changed some of the sounds?
Yeah, I mean, like I get. Look, Gaijin hasn't always been the best, but I like. These are some big mini patches we're getting, Tech. I mean, they're not just changing. They're not just changing little things. They're changing big things, right? They're doing these little mini BR change, and somebody asked, and they're like, "Yeah, because bombers. We didn't want to raise bomber repair costs again, right?" And you're like, "Okay, that's a good plan, right?"
Yeah.
And but I mean, when was the last time you saw this many things get? And they're all obviously for the same reason: is bombers are still the best way to make money in RB. Right, and there's only so many ways to get around that. If you have a smart bomber pilot, they can draw out the match and just make money because of combat time, just extending indefinitely, right? And you know, it's those kinds of things that there's only so much they can do if they're going to keep them in the game. But no, I thought the patch today was great. I did notice the air RB sounds are messed up now, though.
Are they? I haven't.
Yeah, I've been having a problem in Air RB where like somebody will shoot down a plane like 5 kilometers from me, and it'll sound like it happened 500 meters to my right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
I found that too in ground realistic as well. Like some plane crashed near its airfield, and there was just a massive explosion in my ear randomly. And, yeah. So there still the distance issue still seems to be there.
Well, they had it sorted. I think what they did is they changed the sounds to make the sounds better, but it messed up the distance issue. Which I'm not a programmer, but I see things like this happen in games like Star Wars: The Old Republic or.
Oh, what? Sorry, you cut out. I think Conte might have died. Hopefully, he comes back in a second. But yeah, moving on to like what he was saying. Sweet dreams officially about like the mini patches and stuff. I think personally, the like stuff like the Regia Marina and the other minor patches, like are really good. Well, the thing is, guys, if you want to see Conte on again, like you can just ask for him. You know, he hangs out in the chat a lot, so you can just chill with him. Like he's a cool dude. He also hangs out on the Tech Hub a lot. So if you're interested in chatting to Conte, you know, the man, the myth, the legend, you can go onto the Tech Hub Discord. Like are you back, Conte? I'm gonna restart my Discord real quick because it might be on my end. Let's just test something. Yeah, he hangs out in the he hangs out on the VCs in the on the Tech Hub all the time. He's lovely to talk to. He's always punctual, always nice, and I've got to say, you know, I've had many interesting conversations. Oh, it's all right, Conte. I'm restarting my stuff. We can bring you back in real quick. I'm just restarting my Discord now. So I thought it might be mine had the issue. Getting shot out of spawn here. Yeah, oh dear. Alright. I think Discord might have died. It says I don't have a root, which is kind of worrying. See you later, EJ. Thanks for hanging out, bud. Hope you had a good time at the gym. All right, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. You got me?
There we go. Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, good. Discord just sometimes randomly just dies. Sorry about that.
No,
anyways,
it's not your fault. I think the RTC died, so because it died on me too. Oh. But yeah, I mean I really hope they do more stuff like that.
I hope they can find. I mean, the World War II generation's dying off.
Yeah.
Right now, so badly, and they're probably not playing the game. But I mean, even a bunch of Cold War stuff would be great, right? Like the SU-7 article was awesome. I would love to read something from an actual MiG-21 pilot or an actual F-4 pilot that plays this game.
Yeah.
You know. Or somebody who tanked on a M47 or something. Something like an M47 or a T-54 would be even better because they're not like the meta fancy stuff. They're kind of more obscure vehicles, and they just, like nobody thinks about the M47. But if they did an article on it, everybody would be fascinated, and it'd be so enlightening for everybody. I just hope they can find guys like that.
One thing that would be awesome is in game, obviously we see like the perfect look of the vehicle. Like it doesn't have any like engine issues, it doesn't have any gun issues. It would be really nice to see just, people kind of open up about, oh yeah, the transmission was trash on this thing. It used to like break all the time.
Right.
Or, yeah.
Right.
I think that would be
honestly,
awesome.
the Abrams that we had in combat were great. They were all pretty freshly rebuilt, but man, we would break road wheels all the time. Track. I once this was my 2007 tour. We snapped the track going about 45 miles an hour, and when you do that, you're not supposed to hit the brakes because the brakes are on the sprockets in the back, and they cause the track to break. And if you have one track that's not on, that side doesn't break. The other side does, and it will put you into a spin.
Yeah.
And you can literally flip the tank over. And my fucking idiot driver hit the goddamn brakes and almost killed us.
Jesus Christ.
Right. I have pictures of it somewhere I can show you sometime, or I can give them to you, and we can go through it on your stream or something. But yeah, you can see this huge mound of dirt built up on the right side of the tank where we slid out, and I mean, seriously, the tank cocked up about 20 degrees. Let me tell you, that was a huge pucker factor. That was not fun. That was not one of those good moments. But yeah, this kind of stuff breaks all the time. And but the rest of it's actually pretty good stuff. Yeah. Especially when we got to the Gen 2 thermals, like the fire control system on like the FEP was just fabulous. Like you'd never have any problems with it.
I don't know. Like I'd say over like the last maybe 3 years, I've talked to ex-British like armed forces, ex-army, American armed forces, ex-Canadian. I feel like at least for me, it might be time to like bring them all together and start doing either some kind of series or just basically just talk about random stuff. Try and preserve some history, you know.
Yeah, and so I talk about all the fighting I did around Fallujah. When you look at the official Marine Corps history of the Battle of Fallujah, it gets all the things that my tank company did gets like 2 sentences.
Yeah, that sucks, man.
And it's kind of rough, but it's also like, you know, in 1,000 years, only the broad strokes are going to be remembered anyway. But yeah, I mean, you know, it was hard. 2004 was hard, man. And for even the official Marine Corps not to remember it is just kind of weird, man. And the shitty thing is, Tech, like, I knew it at the time too. I knew as a historian what we were doing was going to be the footnote between the first invasion and the second invasion. Right. And it turned out I was right. And it was pretty crazy. I mean, not only all the Marines that died, but, you know, just we were fighting a lot of just misguided teenagers, right? Like the older, powerful people in the city were just using them as to fight the Americans to increase their prestige and power, and they were the ones paying for it. And it was really, war's just shit, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then hopefully someday soon, when Alex is on, I can explain to him properly why the Merkava does have an interesting protection scheme that makes it survivable under certain conditions better than other tanks, and why ultimately the Merkava is the most overrated piece of shit tank in the universe. And then I will also be happy to go through the whole protection onion and how APS fits in it, or I can just go over APS if you want, Tech, like on how all of the tank design. I'll just leave you with this wonderful tidbit I like to give people. Every cubic inch inside of a tank requires 3 cubic inches of armor to protect.
It's kind of interesting.
Think about that for a second, right? Like that's a maxim. It's not 1,000% true, but that's a pretty good rule of thumb.
Yeah. Right.
Like when you're thinking about tank design, every cubic inch you put of interior volume requires 3 cubic inches of armor to protect. And so you start, like, one of the biggest things that shocks people. Oh, here's what they didn't ask me. What would surprise a War Thunder player most about being on an actual M1? That, I think, would have been a good question, right? And the number one thing, I'm telling you, everybody who gets in it is like, God, it's so tiny in here, because it looks so big on the outside. On the outside, it's all armor cavities and storage boxes and bustle racks and track and suspension. Once you get inside the actual tank, there's no fucking space in there because of that rule. Right. Another one is, I've got some great stories too. Like, one of the favorite things to do whenever we do the tank showing off to people is we like to convince people that the loader's ammo door is voice activated. because the knee switch is down below the ring of the turret, right? It's in the lower part of the turret, so you can stand there kind of with your hip sort of at the ring, and they can't really see you moving the knee switch, and you just go open and then just move your knee like a quarter of an inch, and it's enough to trip the switch, and it opens the door, and then you're like, close, and you just let off, and you can convince people that it's fucking voice activated. And, you know, yeah, I've got a lot of other stories of little pranks that you would play with a tank, with grunts. Like, we had a love-hate relationship with grunts. Like, we knew, like, everything we did, we knew was for the grunts. Yeah. Like, Marine tank philosophy is not, we're here to fight big sweeping tank battles. It's here to provide that armored, protected, close support firepower for tank infantry. All weather, by the way. Yeah, tanks don't get rained out like helicopters and planes do. And we would, but we also loved to pick on them. And we had, you know, we called them crunchies or track grease or and we, you know, we had sometimes when we were explaining to them, oh yes, we have 6 weapons on this tank. We have the main gun, the coaxial machine gun, the loader's machine gun, the commander's machine gun, and the left track and the right track. Right, you know, stuff like that. Driver, left track, troops, move out. Right. So, we had stuff like that. But in all honesty, like everything we focused on was trying to keep their casualties down and to, help them in their fights. And, in the 2 invasions of Fallujah, it really did work out that way. But yeah, like one of my buddies, when he was supporting the first invasion of Fallujah, he rolled up to support a bunch of grunts, and they grabbed there's a tank infantry phone on the back. I don't know if it's modeled in the game. It's not, because the M1A1 version they have wouldn't have it. And, and he grabs the tank infantry phone, and he's talking to him. He's like, hey, look, they're in the White House. And he goes, he's like, no, the other White House. And he goes, no, sorry, the other White House, right?
God damn it.
Right, and but that wasn't mine. Mine were different. I had like the first fight I ever got into. There was an overpass. They had a modern highway system in Iraq. Shouldn't be surprising to anyone. And then this overpass outside of town, and we had a checkpoint on the interior side of the overpass. So the overpass was perpendicular to the road that led into the city, went over the road that led into the city. And that's where we had this big checkpoint that they would attack all the time. Checkpoint 1. I've got a good story about Checkpoint 1 maybe later. But, well, anyway, so I pull up underneath the overpass, and I'm like, my first fucking fight, dude. And they've called me out as the React Force because I'm the company headquarters. And I'm like, okay, where do you need me? And they're like, up on the right. And I look up, and I kind of see some vehicles in one of their bunkers, and I look up and to the right, and it just fucking explodes in all these piercing white flashes because somebody had one of the enemy had a heavy machine gun and was hosing that area down with a heavy machine gun. Jesus. And I'm like, you want me to go where? And they're like, up and to the right. And I'm like, I knew real fear in that moment, Tech.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. And I close the hatch. I'm like, loader, close your hatch. And he closes this, and I'm like, okay, driver, move out, up and to the right.
God damn.
Just as I was pulling into position, a tank on the left blew up that heavy machine gun. But yeah, they also dropped a bomb 200 feet in front of me when I was in that position on a building. Like, they were shooting from the building, but where I couldn't see them, there was like a trick of geometry with a couple of other buildings, and they just put that fucking bomb right there. Another thing, man. Okay, the way bombs work against in this tank, modern MBTs, look, I'm telling you, you can drop a 500-pound fucking bomb right next to an Abrams, and it's going to be like, what? Who did that?
It's not going to
care. Right? I mean, if you're right next to it, you'll probably shatter all the suspension in the track and stuff, but you're not getting it in a fucking tank, man. That was a 500-pound bomb. Maybe a 2,000-pounder, but not a 500-pounder, right? And yeah, so it's just, it was pretty. You want me to go where? Okay. And that's that moment where like training and discipline and not wanting to be a coward just takes over, and you're like, all right, well, I can drive up there. I'm in a tank. Dink. And you're like, it's pretty thin armor on the roof. We'll be fine.
Yeah. Oh god. But we will definitely talk about APS at a later date when it makes.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, we've talked about in the past that there are things coming in War Thunder that talking about them right now would be wrong to do. Let's put it like that.
And let's just say, like, it doesn't take a genius to realize they haven't put the T90 in the game because they were waiting to release the T90 when they had APS to make it like full big splash impact. Where's my T90? And they're like, after about 2 patches ago, the little light. Maybe 3 patches ago, the light bulb went off on my head, like, ding, ow. They're waiting for fucking APS. They have a fucking plan, because they've talked about APS, right? And it'll be interesting to see, and then, do you know what they haven't said is not coming this patch? The T90. So, they usually would have denied it by now. So we can start, like, making some inferences here. But if they do go APS, and if there is the announcement, that would be a great time to talk about it. I just would, I linked a couple of awesome articles to show why you would then need a Marine tank in the game for if they put APS. I will go ahead and link them real quickly again. This is the Marine Corps. Marine Corps, actually, I fucking did it on your stream. I knocked out anyways. The Marine Corps actually successfully tested the trophy system on their version of the M1A1.
APS
There is
is
the Marine Corps article, and then the other one that's my favorite. This is my favorite because we actually use this in combat. Not me personally, but my fellow Marines did. This is the missile countermeasures device. It works kind of like, you know how the Russians had the fancy red eyes on their on the T-90 to dazzle incoming missiles?
Mm-hmm.
This is what we use, and you'll notice it's 1/4 of the size. It's only one piece, and it was probably more effective because America, greatest country on earth, and we have actual technology.
But no.
This worked against specific Sackloss missiles, and I won't go into which specific missiles, but basically it replicated the beacon that's on the back of the missile that they used to guide the missile in. So whenever it got close enough to the tank, that was brighter than the actual beacon, so the computer would take over and fly the missile into the dirt, low and to the right of the tank, like every time. It's pretty fucking cool, huh?
That is pretty cool, yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, I don't think the Army yet put them on their tanks, but we put them on our Marine M1A1s. And anyways, Tech, thank you for the time. It's late here. It's late for you, I imagine. But it was so fun to answer everybody's questions. Again, if you want, please go and comment on the article. I think Gaijin's in love with this idea. The SU-7 one was well received. This was well received. I think it's good marketing for them. I think it's good for their morale, and I think it's good for their view of themselves as a company. Mm-hmm. But the more people that support it, the more they'll realize it's good for marketing. And I want to find an M47 tanker somewhere. You know, oh yeah, we were in Germany for 2 years, and that Grafenwehr, and the goddamn transmission broke every 5 minutes, or just like, oh, and the gun was actually awesome. The one in the game sucks compared to our gun, or whatever. You know, it would sound like that too. Right.
I'll put out some feelers. I'm sure I can find a few.
General Dynamics Land Systems makes the Abrams. Well, actually, it's a public-private venture where we take old Abrams hulls and turrets and we remanufacture them into various versions of the Abrams. It's all done in Lima, Ohio, and that's all public knowledge. Mm-hmm. And I've been there. It's a very cool place, and it's also this really tiny building. You'd think it'd be like some gigantic factory. Nah, it's like a backyard garage. It's really not that big. It's pretty cool. Because they're only rebuilding so many at a time. One final thing, then I'll go. The hull and turret is made of this really good, strong. It's not too high of a carbon steel. It's like the perfect balance between hardness and softness that basically give them an infinite life. We haven't built a new hull and turret in America in like 30 years, and we keep building new tanks because we take the old hull and turret structure. We open up the armor compartments and we take all the pieces off the outside and put all new pieces on inside and out, and it's good to go. Brand new fucking tank because the hull and turret don't need to be remanufactured.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
All right. See you later.
Always, it is always a pleasure, Conte, and you are always welcome to come on if you want to. Just have a chat about pretty much anything.
You bet. Thanks again. And again, I have been waiting for this article to come out for a couple of weeks. It was a great day. Thanks for all the positive support, everybody. It really made my day. Loved it.
All right, see you later, man.
You bet.
So that was Conte Baraka, the man, the myth, the legend, the guy behind the Abrams article that you saw today. And as I said, it's always awesome to chat to him. He's normally available on the Tech Hub Discord, just chilling, talking to people. And also, if you want to hit him up personally, as I said, you can probably DM him on Discord, or, as I said, leave a comment on the article that came out today. So yeah, simple as that.